Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Anime Casuals. I am Lucky, and today I decided to do one of these tier lists that everybody's been doing for, it seems like it's been a couple of years, and we're just starting to get on that bandwagon. So you guys know that I love a good, top 5, all that kind of stuff, but I really wanted to, go through a bunch of anime and really give my take on something that I really love, which, funny that I say that, romance anime. I love romance anime. In order to narrow this list down, I decided to use somebody else's list. So if you guys want to check out the list that I derived all of these from, it is from ranker.com. The only reason why I'm using them is because they had 50 of them on there, and I decided to narrow it down by the ones that I actually watched. And I X'd out a couple of them that I didn't really think met the romance criteria. Some of these even are kind of scraping by just barely. So let's go ahead and get straight into this tier list. So just full disclaimer, this is my first time doing a tier list. So if it's a little shoddy, I do apologize. So instead of doing typical tier, S tier, A tier, all that kind of stuff, I decided to do this in in the spirit of the romance genre. So we have breakup, we've got passable, we've got lovable, we've got lovely, and we've got romantic. One of the things that I've noticed in these tier reviews is that a lot of people don't actually point out the extremes so that they can decide what's in between those. I decided to go ahead and pick my favorite and my least favorite out of this list, and then we'll go ahead and fill it in from there. That way we can figure out where the other ones lie in there. So with that being said, we're going to move Fruits Basket 2019. I actually didn't watch the original, 2000, what was it, 2007, 2003? I have no idea. I didn't watch that version of it, so that's why it's not on here. But I just feel like the way that Fruits Basket ended and just everything about it was just so cool. I really want to do a rewatch one day, but that's my top one out of all this list. Now for the bottom, oh man, this is going to be really tough to kind of choose here. I guess I'll choose one of the ones that kind of scraped on by. So I'm just going to pick one here that I'm going to get into a lot of shit for this. So, Howl's Moving Castle. I personally just did not like Howl's Moving Castle a whole lot. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but just for me in particular, I didn't really like it. And I didn't really like how the romance was built up in general. So I'm going to put that one at the breakup category. So now we know we're going from Fruits Basket all the way down to Howl's Moving Castle. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and go on from there. Okay, so we have Kaguya-Sama, Love is War. Oh man, okay, so this is at least a lovely. It's really, really good. I'm gonna go ahead and put Kaguya-Sama right up here at romantic. Actually, so what is it? Left to right is how good these are, I suppose. Well, whatever. They made it to romantic. So next up, we have Clanad After Story. I just want to point out that Clanad After Story, I don't want to hear any hate mail. I don't want to hear any comments. But Clanad After Story felt like to me it just basically felt like a jerk off of emotions. Basically, it just felt like, hey, we're just gonna make you cry, and we're just gonna keep making you cry. So there wasn't a lot of romance to be had. Now, Clenade is further down on this tier list, so I just want to make sure that's very clear. They're gonna get 2 different ratings, but Clanade After Story, if we're just talking about romance, I'm gonna have to try. Where do I want to put this? I will go ahead and put Clanad After Story in passable. After Story is more about their life afterwards and the struggles with being an adult and the struggles with dealing with tragedy. So that's all I'll say without freaking completely spoiling everything. So let's go on to the next one. Okay, so next one we have, this is a pretty new one. This is Hori Mia. There were a couple other characters, besides the main characters that I wish they would have expanded on a little bit like how I felt with Naruto, how they chose to use Rock Lee and a couple of the other shinobi in Konoha. I just felt like there was a lot of stuff there that they could have really expanded upon, but I think they did a pretty good job with what they had. With all that being said, Hori Mia goes into my lovely category, which I finally gotten one there. All right, next we have Komi Can't Communicate. This one is automatically going into lovely. Komi Can't Communicate was just one of the best shows to come out on Netflix in recent memory in terms of anime. But either way, really, really cute anime, and I love the one thing they have to get right in an anime is the chemistry between the main duo, and I think they have just so much chemistry together. So anyway, let's go on to the next one. Next up we have My Dress Up Darling. Okay, so disclaimer, I have talked about this one at nauseum just because I feel like it got a little overrated because there's a waifu in it and everybody just goes crazy. Oh, it's a waifu and everything. But as the story went on, Gojo really started to grow on me. And therefore, I think this one actually, it gets a lovely rating. I really enjoyed their relationship, and I think that it actually turned into a much better romance anime than I thought it was going to. Kimi ni Todoke, or From Me to You. This one I watched a long time ago. Now, I will say this, if you're not into the whole misunderstanding bit, you know, this is very common in romance anime, especially high school romance anime. This isn't going to be the anime for you, but I'm really into any of that cookie cutter bullshit. And From Me to You just has such an amazing main character in the form of Sawako, and just has an incredible ensemble cast along with that. So it really makes those, and by the way, this is like a 50 episode anime if I'm not mistaken. It's like, yeah, it's about 50 episodes, and I loved every second of it. So instead of going objective, this one's going all the way up at romantic. Next up we have Say I Love You. Now, this might surprise a lot of you. I have actually watched this. I actually did enjoy it. Now, in terms of a rating, oh man, I think I'm gonna have to put this. I think I'm gonna have to put this in lovable. I don't think it's quite in the lovely category. Although, like I said, I had fun with it, but I just I don't feel comfortable putting it in the same tier as Komi Can't Communicate or Hori Mia. It just doesn't feel right. Anyway, let's move on to My Little Monster. This one I just watched kind of recently, and if you guys aren't checking out the podcast, I actually do a weekly anime review where I just watch an anime, give it my my thoughts and everything like that. I try not to make them too spoilery, but if you guys want to check that out, check out the link tree in the description box down below and head over to Anime Casuals Podcast. Anyway, I actually remember this one. I really did not like the main dude. He's kind of like a dick for no reason, and he goes a little overboard, and it's really kind of, I know what they're trying to do, like it's like, oh, she's got to rein him in, Beauty and the Beast style, but even the Beast was a lot more tame than this guy, and Beast, well, he was a beast. So in that case, I'm gonna put this at passable. It has its moments in there, but in terms of romance, I just was not digging it. Next up, we have Love, Chunibyo, and Other Delusions. This was a really fun one, and I've always really liked these types of anime that are like, they show the characters growing up, as their relationship grows as well. I've always loved seeing that kind of character development. I think that it's something that is very unique to the high school romance anime. I just find that really fascinating, and this is one of the most interesting ones out there in terms of the high school romance anime genre. So with that being said, I have to put this up at lovely category. Rika's just such a lovely girl, and just everything about it was just such a great addition to it. And the fact that Rika has such an interesting backstory, I think really adds to it. Let's go to the next one, Golden Time. I really enjoyed this one, man. This is one of those anime that really adds a little intrigue. There's a little bit of oh my god, what is the... This is so ironic. I'm forgetting the thing that makes you... Amnesia. I'm forgetting about the thing that makes you forget about things. I just remember watching it and not wanting to put it down. And then even after it happened and after it ended, I still didn't want to put it down. Like, I was like, I need more. I need more. I need more. If you guys are thinking about watching Golden Time, I would highly recommend it. I'm going to put it up at lovely. You know what? Fuck past me. We're going to go with romantic. Golden Time was just such a good show. It's actually probably the most underrated show on this whole tier list. If you guys have not watched it, you guys have to watch it. Next up, we have Spice and Wolf. I like the idea of like a goddess or another species falling in love with a human, right? It's kind of that forbidden love, so to speak, because you come from two completely different walks of life. Also, I think Holo and Lawrence, is that his name? Craft Lawrence? Yeah. Lawrence have a really good chemistry together because she's very wise and she has some supernatural powers that help him in his bartering and in his decision making. But most of the time he just fucks shit up, and then she has to end up helping him fix it. I don't know, there's just something really cool about that relationship. This one I'm gonna put up at lovely. Okay, next up we have Your Lie in April. This anime did a really good job of actually kind of doing the same thing that Love Chunibyo and Other Delusions did, right? Where there is this building up or this growing up period for a character. Him learning through falling in love, his love for music, because he kind of loses it for a while after his mother dies and is not able to really do any of this stuff. So watching how love can bring passion back to your life, I think it was just such a cool idea. I just recall just watching this and absolutely bawling my damn eyes out. So Your Lie in April, I can't put it any lower than lovely. I'm gonna put it above. I'm gonna put it above Spice and Wolf. Actually, you know what? Let me try and move these around a little bit. Okay, so yeah, that looks pretty okay. I might change this at the end of it, but let's check this out. Next up, we have Auron High School Host Club. Gosh, but the humor in this show is just so good. And in terms of romance, yeah, there's some good romantic scenes in there with Haruhi and the main dude. Oh man, where do I put this one? I'm gonna put this. Remember, I'm judging it based off as like a romance anime, so this is not being judged as a slice of life anime, or else it would be really high. I gotta put it lovable, man. I'm gonna put it above Say I Love You. I'm having such a hard time here because there is a romance that builds up, and it is really good. Oh man, I can't. No. We're just gonna put it at the end of Lovely. I think I probably just avoided a lot of hate mail too. So, whew. Okay, next up we have Plastic Memories. All I will say is that this anime is so good. It's so fucking good, and this is so interesting because it's one of the first anime that I've ever seen that shows you know, that android, are they androids? Cyborg? I don't know exactly what it is, but you know, human like robots falling in love with humans. First time I ever saw that was actually like Dragon Ball Z with Android 18 and Krillin. Jeez Louise, it's gotta go. I'm gonna put this actually pretty high up here on the lovely scale. It's really, but it's just so much more than a romance anime. It asks a lot of philosophical questions as well. So that's why I'm not putting it up all the way at the top. Just think about it in this way: like they didn't put all of their stats into like Fallout, right? They didn't put all their stats into romance, which is fine. It was still a fantastic series. But, right, we're talking about romantic or romance anime, so yeah, I kind of have to go based off of that scale. Okay, so this next one was a little... I haven't watched this one for a while, but I know a lot of the plot points in it. And this is Vampire Knight. So, okay, if anybody has watched Vampire Knight if they've watched it to completion, not read it, right? Obviously, the anime ended at kind of a weird spot. But if you've watched it to that special point that I'm talking about, you'll understand why I'm going to put this at passable. Very Twilight-esque. It's just, anything with a love triangle that involves vampires, I think just automatically goes into that. So, but for the most part, I think it did a pretty good job as like a general supernatural type anime. So, but in terms of romance, I just don't think it was all there. All right, next up we have Lovely Complex. Lovely Complex is so close to the top, man. It is so close to the top. I'm putting it all the way up at Lovely, third one down there. The only reason why I'm not putting it into the romantic category is because of the dude. I think his name's Uotani or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But that dude is a fucking idiot, man. You know, he's got a terrible attitude, and you're just wondering why the girl Rika would fall for him. But it is a really cute story about a really tall girl and a really short guy. Two things that are typically not taboo, but you know, typically women are found more attractive if they're smaller, and men are more attractive if they're bigger. It has really good elements to it, but the main dude is just a fucking spaz. So that's the only thing that brings this down. If it was just all up to the chick, then we'd be fine on this. Probably like a lot of things in life. Anyway, next up is Nisikoi. Nisikoi has a very interesting plot, but you know, I'm gonna put this in the lovable category. It's very lovable, but it's got a lot of it's more about like the intrigue and the mystery. It's got a little bit of that harem aspect, which for me puts it a little bit lower down on the romance, you know, category. The only reason why it tends to go down is just because the main character tends to be a fucking complete nobody, right? Which is typically the harem thing to do, right? You make the harem dude seem like he's an attainable goal. Oh, I can be that guy, and then I can get all these girls, and then I'll watch this anime to reaffirm the fact that I'm a fucking loser and I can get all these girls. But I think the main character in this actually does a pretty good job, so that's why I'm going to put it a little bit higher than I normally would for most harems. Next up, we have Chivalry of a Failed Knight, and for this one, I think I'm actually going to put this up at lovable. I'm going to put this, yeah, I'll put it right behind. No, you know what? You know what? Oh, wait, how come I can't move this? Okay, there we go. I'm gonna put this at the top of lovable. I really thought this anime did a really good job with all of its elements. Has really cool fight scenes. Not really has to do with the romance part, but the romance in this anime goes from like 0 to 100 really quick. So it has a really good pacing to it, and then it's one of those romance that anime that start off from like the beginning and then it continues to go in there. Little disclaimer here, it is a more like it doesn't follow that like fan service part of the anime where, you know, girls are showing stuff, but like I went here more for like the cool fight scenes, and the story is actually not too bad. Okay, next up we have Anohana. It's such a good anime, man. Thing is that it doesn't really, it goes into the romance, it definitely does, but it's more about the growing up aspects of it. And so I'm gonna put this one, where do I put this one? Holy shit, I'm gonna put it there for right now. Like, I can't put it any lower than Lovely, but I just don't know where to put it on there. Okay, next up we have Orange. So Orange is, okay, in my opinion, this is not as much of a romance anime as it is like a mental illness message, like a mental health message. It has romantic elements of it, but in my opinion, I think it goes more into the lovable category. Next up we have Real Life, which is, this is actually another example of one of those anime where it's much more about growing up than it is about romance. So this one I'm actually gonna put at the lovely scale, because one of the romances in there is actually really, really cool. And I think the build up to the overall romance is actually not too bad either. So I'm gonna put it at the bottom of lovely. Next up is Skip Beat. Oh, this is such a good fucking anime. But in terms of the romance, it's mostly it's mostly about a chick trying to like get back at a dude for cheating on her, and well, not cheating on her, it's more like using her and then just throwing her out. But yeah, I'm gonna put this at the lovable category. It doesn't have a lot to do with romance. I'm gonna put it at the end of it, but that's the only reason. Otherwise, go watch this fucking anime if you're into like slice of life anime. Next up is Kimi no Na wa, or Your Name. Wow, this is probably the only romance movie that I would put in romantic tier. I think it's just so well done. All about, you know, two people switching bodies and that kind of stuff. It's such an interesting concept that I just think it adds that little spice to the romance genre that it kind of needs, instead of just going with the tropes, right? Next up, we have Darling in the Franxx. So I have a different opinion than a lot of people do. I think Darling in the Franxx ended wonderfully, and I think it's such a great show, and it's actually one of my favorite Trigger animes. Is it from Studio Trigger? Yeah, I think it's technically from Studio Trigger. And in terms of the romance, there is actually a really big focus on romance, dude. So I'm gonna put this a little bit higher than, let's see here. Okay, I don't feel comfortable going past that. Yeah, Darling in the Franxx, I'm gonna put it over there in Lovely category. As you can see, Lovely is getting fucking like ballooned up right now. So anyway, let's go into some other ones here. So next up we have Watakoi. One of the things I think this one did really well was it decided to focus on two relationships and just focus on those two and make them really great. So yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. I'm gonna put, I have to put this up here. Do I want to go at romantic? Okay, it's somewhere. I think I'm going to put it at the top of Lovely. It's, out of all these ones, I actually did enjoy it. In terms of romance, I enjoyed this one the best. Also, it's very relatable with the whole otaku and video game fan and manga nerd, all that kind of stuff. So it's really relatable to all of us watching that. So next up is Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. So this one automatically goes up to Lovely, but where does it go? I think I'm going to put it in right here. I think it suffers a little bit from the waifu syndrome that My Dress Up Darling does. Really good show that goes into like a lot of the sci-fi and Chunibyo elements as well. Next up, we have Clanad, which I'm going to go ahead and put this up at... I'm actually going to put this a little bit above Clanad After Story, just because it focuses a little bit more on the main character's relationship. It actually has a couple of alternate endings, because I think this is based off of like one of those Otome games, so it does have a really cool ending system, like what if the main character ended up with this chick or this chick instead. And last but not least, Koi no Kotachi, or Silent Voice. This one was a really good show. I don't know if it focused on like a relationship as much. I just felt like this had to do a little bit more with mental illness. It kind of has that same orange feel to it. So with that being said, I'm still gonna put it at lovely just because it's such a great anime. But overall, I think that it didn't exactly, it doesn't really strike me as like a romance anime, even though it does have certain aspects of that. I'd probably put this above here, that above here, that right there. That looks good to me. I think this looks pretty good for the most part. Now, I just want to point out, just because Howl's Moving Castle is at the end of this, it does not mean it's a terrible movie by any stretch of the imagination, but it does suffer from like anime movie syndrome, where they don't have enough time to really build up this relationship, and it kind of just happens. Don't kill me in the comments. But as always, guys, don't forget to keep it casual.